Good, how are you?
Good.
Good, you just have one item today, right?
Uh,
Do you have more than one?
We got more than one. I know some stuff is gonna get pulled off the consent agenda,
That's right, I did see another one.
so I think it's three altogether with those.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, hi there. Haven't seen you in a while, huh?
3 weeks, Sam.
Whoa. How are you?
Been pretty good. Spent last week in San Jose.
How was that?
Pretty good conference.
One, two, check, one, two. Okay. Hi, Christopher. Did you want to do a test?
Yes, I
There
do.
we go.
I'm doing things from home today because there's of the construction at Lakeport, so hopefully that doesn't make any difference.
Oh, that looks great, actually. That looks really good.
Let me check my background real fast.
You have your Lake County Library background, blue.
Yeah, I'm adding the PowerPoint so I can get that book cover up there. And
There we go. The correspondent, Virginia
Yeah,
Evans.
you have a preview. All right, thank
Okay,
you.
great. All right, thanks. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the December 9th, 2025 regular Board of Supervisors meetings. We're going to call to order here at 9 a.m., and we'll start out with a moment of silence. Go ahead.
Yeah, in November, Shirley Coyne passed away at her home in Cobb, and she had been bringing her family up to Pine Grove since I think the 70s or early 80s, and they had a trailer there. And then they moved to Cobb full-time in the early 2000s, and she was my neighbor during the Valley Fire, helped her and her husband evacuate. But one of the incredible things about Shirley was when she married her husband, who was a veteran at the time and worked for Vallejo Fire Department, he had a stroke, and she ended up taking care of the family and working for the unions and helping people navigate their union benefits. And so a lot of people throughout the generations that she did that work really rely on those benefits now. She really had an incredible life, and she will be missed. Her daughter, Kathy, is chair of the Cobberry Council and runs the Blackberry Cobbler Festival every year. So this spirit of volunteerism and giving back, she's definitely passed down to her children. She'll be missed.
She'll be missed. Supervisor Sabatier, did you have one?
Yes, thank you, and I apologize. I have, it's been a while since we've met, and I have two that I would like to provide. One is for Benjamin Vega. I'll read the last portion of his obituary that his family put together. Benjamin was a simple man with an enormous heart who taught us all how to love better and be better. His light will never fade in the hearts of those who knew him. Ben's passing is a big loss to his family, who miss him endlessly. Ben was 30 years old. Definitely lost way too early. I knew his brother, Jorge, very well. He worked at the senior center for a long time. Got to know the family, and that is a huge loss, especially for somebody so young in our community. Then we also had a great loss in the community of Clear Lake of Carl Webb. Carl Webb was a Marine Corps, a sheriff deputy, helped to build and lead the jail that we currently have today. His history in the community of Clear Lake is vast. He was the only sheriff deputy in the area of the Clear Lake area before it became a city, and was one of the leaders that helped create the city, saying you need your own police department to be able to really serve and create public safety there. He was a Rotarian, and just everything that he did was for the community, and he passed, I believe, last week. And so his loss will be felt in that community as well.
Are there any others? Okay. Vice Chair Rasmussen, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4, consideration of extra items not appearing on the posted agenda.
Chair, we have no extra items.
0, okay. Item 5, approval of consent agenda. As you know, consent agenda items are non-controversial items, or they're considered that, but if there are questions, anyone from the board or anyone from the public can pull one. Is there anyone from the board that would like to pull one? Supervisor Sabatier?
Yes, I would like to pull item 5.2 and 5.3, please.
5.2 and 5.3. Are there any others?
5.5.
5.5. All right. Okay. I'll open it up for the public. Is there anyone in the public that would like to pull an item from the consent agenda? All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 5.3, 5.2, and 5.5.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0. Let's see, next we will move on to 6.1, public input. If there's anyone that would like to come up and speak during public input, you will have 3 minutes to do so. Just know that we will not be able to engage according to the Brown Act, but we will do our best to direct you to whoever the department is or your district supervisor that can help with that issue. Is there anyone from the public that would like to please come on up and then state your name for the record, and you'll have 3 minutes. And if you haven't filled out a document, there's one sitting there.
Do that after? That's fine.
Yeah, as long as you, yeah.
Bear with me, pull up my notes. Okay, my name is Kevin Boyd. I am a taxpayer and resident of Kelseyville, California. I have tried to reach out to the Board of Supervisors regarding this matter and so far not gotten any useful feedback, but I hope to hear back from you soon. First of all, I would like to say, with regards to the current budgeting issue for the Community Development Department, there's only 2 ways you found out last minute that the budget was in the state that it was. I run a business, I run a budget, I run payroll. You found out either last minute because it was negligent, just certainly wasn't being managed, or you found out last minute because it was a strategy to give you...
Sir, this is on the agenda for later, so if you would like to speak on this, we can talk at that time. You can talk more about it during that item.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will wait till then.
Do you know what item that is?
I do not offhand.
Okay, all right. Let's see, I think it's on non-timed. It's untimed, so it could be at any specific time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that is part of the reason why I figured I would speak now, because it was unclear
Right,
you know,
but
if it would be addressed.
if it's on the agenda, then we can talk about it then. Then we can have back and forth and you can ask questions.
Yeah, and we have been in contact. We just haven't set a time yet to have our meeting.
Okay.
7.5.
7.5, so when that comes up. Any other public input? Come on up.
Good morning, Board. Ben Rickelman, Deputy County Administrative Officer. In November, I was here with the Gwinnett Mixed Use Development Team regarding the Community Facility District. I'll take less than 3 minutes. And so we had a workshop regarding that and mentioned I would come back with a resolution. We do have a resolution ready, back and forth with the development team and their consultants. But they also want to have an acquisition agreement ready, and we do not have all the information for that. So in consultation with the development group and their consultants, probably in January. Again, it's dependent on them providing the requisite information to get that acquisition agreement ready, but just wanted to give an update where that process stands. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the chambers? Anyone on Zoom? All right, iPhone XS, if you can unmute, and you'll have your 3 minutes.
Sky Laywell, Pillsbury Family Farms. I speak today because public service carries responsibility. And when that responsibility drives the most vulnerable in our county feel it. We hear the repeated need for youth programs that are supposed to keep young people out of crisis and create a positive environment for our youth. Meeting those needs requires something harder than good intentions. It requires this board to say no. No to unnecessary spending, no to unchecked expansion, and no to budgets that favor enforcement over care, prevention, and stability. With that, my first issue concerns Zoom and public process. I submitted a complaint after my face was hidden during a Zoom meeting earlier this year, and County Council responded by stating that Zoom is for convenience only. That statement does not reflect how the county actually operates. Since March of 2020, Zoom has been used consistently at nearly every meeting, treated as an integral part of the county's government meeting infrastructure. However, when Zoom was introduced, this board did not certify or vote on its use. The record reflects there was one single comment noting that it was useful, but there was no formal board action approving it. It raises legitimate questions about the oversight and authorization. And I want to remind the board of its own County of Lake Code of Conduct. That code commits the county to public service in the interest of the public interest, honesty, integrity, fairness, impartiality, active listening, and transparency. Those are not aspirational values. They are the obligations that this board has agreed to uphold. My second concern involves the Community Development Department and the Cannabis Enforcement. We have county staff doing their best to keep folks with expunged criminal backgrounds out of the cannabis industry, and I have submitted formal complaints regarding staff directives that conflict with state cannabis law. Those complaints went unanswered, and a second complaint was also ignored. When I spoke during public input on November 18th of 2025, the Community Development Director is able to respond partway through my public comment while still refusing to formally respond to my other prior complaints. To other cannabis operators watching, this sends a clear message. Staff directives override written law, silence replaces due process. On a normal day, under the Community Development Director, regulation has replaced leadership and is being exercised in a way that intimidates rather than ensures due process. Budgets and enforcement priorities reveal values, and the funding flows to punitive enforcement systems while the youth programs are treated as a pipe dream rather than a priority. You as the board are choosing reaction over prevention and control over care. This board needs to recognize the pattern, ignore complaints, off-record responses, and pressure without accountability, and to reconsider whether those actions reflect the ethical standards and the public service obligations that this board and county claim to stand for. Muleham.
Thank you. Any other public input on?
I do, if there's no one else.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to, because there were 4 of us at the fairground event yesterday with Senator McGuire, I just wanted to share kind of some background on that funding. We had applied, groups with the Risk Reduction Authority for several years trying to get funding to address these long overdue needs, leaky roofs, moldy walls, all kinds of things. And the reason this funding coming from him is so critically important is because it doesn't fit in any of the grant boxes that we've been searching for. So there were a few different grants, I'm pretty sure through Strategic Growth Council that we cooperated on to try and get funding. So it's really, this is a huge win, and this is an example of really great support from our leadership. So I just wanted to explain that to you all. And then the other thing is Friday night, the football game in Middletown for the Northern California Finals was absolutely incredible. It was a great run, historic game for our county, and it was just really wonderful to see so many people out there with their families really celebrating with this team. And also a big deal for our fellow colleague, Chairman Simon. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. All right, if there's no other public input, I'll close that portion and move on to 6.2, our pet of the week.
Good morning, I'm Wences Rojas with Lake County Animal Care and Control. This is Sista. She is a unaltered shepherd mix. She's just over a year old. She originally was from 2nd Street in the Upper Lake, but she ended up getting dumped with her brother up on Middle Creek campground. And we ended up picking her up from the park rangers up there. And she's good with her dogs. She's actually a very good, sweet dog. As you can see, she's very calm and mellow, even in areas where there's a lot of people. Anybody have any questions?
How old is she?
She's just over a year old.
Just over a year. She's great.
And she's beautiful. I wish I could have her myself. But if that's all the questions I got, I'm going to show her around the courthouse. If you see me around, you're more than welcome to pet her.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Oh, question.
Hey, sir. Just curious if there's still any, there was a grant for adoptions. Has that been exhausted, or is that still?
Yes, that's already, all those means have already been exhausted. I don't know the exact number, but I do know approximately over 15 canines were adopted out just using those funds strictly, which really helped out the shelter at the time because we were full.
Appreciate it.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
If I may make a point of order to please request that all cell phones be turned off. That was really distracting and almost disrespectful for the speaker today. Please and thank you.
All right, item 6.3, new and noteworthy at the library. There he is, this Christopher.
Hello, I'm Christopher Beach, County Librarian. Thank you for giving me just a few minutes to talk about what's new and noteworthy at the library. So this month, I wanted to highlight The Correspondent, a debut novel by Virginia Evans that has become a national bestseller. This is the author's first novel. Virginia Evans lives in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, with her husband and 2 children. She has a Master's of Philosophy and Creative Writing from Trinity College in Dublin, Ireland. The Correspondent tells the life story of Sybil, an opinionated, retired lawyer in her 70s, whose journey of forgiveness and self-discovery unfolds entirely through the letters and emails she writes to everyone from her best friend to Joan Didion. Holly Spurty writes for the Southern Review of Books, The Correspondent explores some profound themes, finding solace in literature, forging connections across distance and time, confronting past and present trauma, the effects of lingering grief, and ultimately seeking and receiving forgiveness. Evans' writing and the beautiful way she tells the story of a life will leave you awestruck. The Correspondent is available now in print, large print, audiobook, and ebook through the library system, and you can request this book or other materials through our online library catalog, which has the combined resources of Lake, Sonoma, and Mendocino County library systems. Requesting items is free, and items are sent to your local branch for you to pick up. This month, the Lakeport Library is closed for in-person service due to construction. We are keeping service going with curbside pickup of requested materials. So please call the Lakeport Library at 707-263-8817 to arrange for a curbside pickup. In addition, on Fridays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you can visit the library bookmobile in the Lakeport Library parking lot to browse materials or pick up holds. All due dates for items checked out in Lakeport have been extended, but the book drop remains open if patrons want to turn them in while the building is closed. The construction is to install a new fire suppression system at the library. Everything is currently on track for Lakeport to reopen in January 2026, and of course our other branches remain open. So to learn more about our library system, you can visit our website at library.lakecountyca.gov or come visit your local library branch in Lakeport, Clear Lake, Middletown, Upper Lake, or on the bookmobile. So thanks again for listening to what's new and noteworthy at the library.
All right. Any public comment? Go ahead, Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah, I just want to thank our librarian, Christopher Veach. I was a little hesitant on the closure of Lakeport for the whole month. I think what you're doing with the bookmobile and still providing service from inside to the folks that are coming to you is great. And luckily, the weather is going to make it a whole lot easier because looking at the rest of December, including the holidays, looks like the rest of December will be easy for you to be able to provide that service. So just thank you for being flexible like that and still providing the best service you can.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? All right. We'll close that item, 6.3, and move on to our next item, 6.4, consideration of presentation of the 2024 Crop and Livestock Report. Agricultural Commissioner Catherine Vanderwall is coming up, and will present this item. Morning. Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Board. Supervisor Parker, I'm sorry, CAO Parker, Catherine Vanderwall, Agricultural Commissioner and Sealer of Weights and Measures. And this morning it is my pleasure to present to you the 2024 Crop and Livestock Report. Just as a reminder, Food and Ag Code mandates that agricultural commissioners throughout the state provide this report every year, and we are always a year behind. So currently we're in 2025, so we don't have that data yet, which is why we're presenting 2024. So just kind of keeping with the theme that we've done the last few years, you know, taking a look back 50 years ago, what was the landscape like then with similar crops that we have today? Of course, there were different crops 50 years ago, but these are the ones that have carried over that are still our primary crops today. So you can see the pear acreage, the wine grape acreage, walnut acres, field and seed crops, and the amount of cattle that we had in 1974, which does not seem that long ago. And today, you can see the changes. So our pear acreage has decreased, wine grape acreage has increased. Walnuts, field and seed crops, and cattle and calves have also seen a decrease over the last 50 years. And the next slide is just a nice little chart that kind of shows the difference side by side. So the blue is 1974 numbers and the orange is 2024 numbers. So you can really see where things have shifted over time. In our 20-year gross value comparison, as you may recall, 2023 was a record year for the county. Of course, we saw a dip in 2024, kind of as expected with the current market. But as any industry, you're going to see your highs and lows. So the previous record in the county was established in 2017. And then just, I can't really see what that is. Oh, thank you. Gross values for 2024 versus 2023. So you can just kind of see how things have shifted between the 2 years. So 2024, what were our top 5 commodities? Continuing is number 1, wine grapes. Number 2 is pears. 3, 4, and 5 have shifted. So number 3, we have cattle and calves. Number 4 is our miscellaneous livestock. So think of every other farm animal besides cattle. And then number 5, for the first time in quite a while, we're seeing walnuts. So that's pretty impressive. In 2024 cannabis production, again, I just have the reported acres that was grown. This is not permitted acres. This is what was reported to be grown. Do not have any values. My office sent out 115 surveys. We had 7 responses. 4 of those had no production for 2024, and 3 provided us values. So 3 responses is not enough to represent an entire industry. So those values are not there for 2024. And does your board have any questions?
Supervisor Sabatier?
While I know that it kind of provides a little bit of a dismal outlook on what happened last year, I think we've all known especially our grapes are struggling. I mean, the price is almost down to $1,200, sometimes less than $1,000. I think it was the Malbec variety that was 700 and something per ton. That's kind of insane to see it that low. That's got to be a real struggle that our farmers are dealing with. But I have to say, while small, I am excited that we are growing more vegetables and other types of crops that is leading us to a variety of food production. Let's keep that going. It actually doubled, so that's great.
That is great.
Go ahead, Supervisor Pyska.
Yeah, I agree. That is a good sign. Do you have numbers to share on the acreage of, I know it's from 2023, but do you have acreage culling of the wine grapes?
So that will actually, if you look in the crop and livestock report, the total acreage for the wine grapes, you'll see the difference for 23 and 24. So there is a reduction. In 2025, we're going to see another reduction in acreage. I don't have that exact number, though.
All right. Public comment. Is there anyone from the public? All right. We'll bring it back to the board. And This is a report, so appreciate the report. Thank you for that work.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Pull it out. Okay.
6.5, public hearing, consideration of an ordinance amending section 56.3 of chapter 14, personnel of the Lake County Code to establish a county council attorneys unit and add attorney positions to the district attorney unit to reflect changes in membership. And CAO Parker is going to have Pam Samick from Human Resources present this. Go ahead.
Good morning, Board. Pam Samick, Human Resources Director. This morning, we want to look at amending the ordinance to create a county council unit and make changes to the district attorney unit to reflect changes in the membership. They have submitted all petition materials required, and this is the first reading of the ordinance. Any questions?
All right, don't see any questions from the board. Supervisor Sabatier.
I just want to make sure, since I believe it was uploaded yesterday, so it wasn't provided the full 72 hours, if we can maybe show the changes that have been made, the revised version of the resolution, because there was a definition that had been missed in the resolution.
I think she's pulling it up right now.
I had the same problem, Johanna. I had to
I did too.
reconnect. But I got back on.
And actually, I don't see the uploaded revised version. We would have to amend the one that's there, because I don't see the new one with F in it. We were missing confidential unit, where out of the confidential unit, we're supposed to pull out, I think, the county council, the deputy county council lawyers.
There's a red line. Is that's not the same thing?
The red line is the overall, but it's not the resolution. The resolution itself is what
Oh,
we
I
need to
see.
pass in order to make.
It's not a resolution, it's an ordinance, and I was able to pull that off yesterday, and it was there.
I'm reloading
not-
it right now.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, one option for your board is to trail the matter so that it can be posted up on the screen. The other option is, I could walk your board through the changes, which is just in a few places, really.
Let's walk through it.
Would be consistent with what was initially uploaded within that, in compliance with that 72-hour period, and I'm looking at the exact label of it. That would be the attachment that reflects the actual red line version, which is the attachment labeled 2025-12-01 Lake County, California Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14 revised, and it goes on. With that particular red line. So really, the latest amendments, the revisions, is the purpose behind that is to make it consistent with the red line versions of that attachment that I just mentioned. So for purposes of walking your board through that, the actual ordinance document, the amendments, the latest amendments to that would be under section, there would be a new section 3. And that section 3 would state subsection F of section 56.3 of chapter 14 of the Lake County Code is amended as follows. Then it would quote subsection F, confidential unit comprised of all employees who in the course of their duties have access to information relating to the county's administration of employer-employee relations, excluding members of the Deputy County Council Attorney's Unit. And then what was previously section 3 would now be relabeled as section 4 because we have a new section 3, so that's immediately below. And then what was section 4 would then be relabeled section 5. It's basically just a renumbering. And then lastly, the last amendment would be to delete right below the new section 5 is to delete the phrase or clause, now therefore the Lake County Board of Supervisors ordains as follows, because that is redundant. It's already located at the beginning on top of the ordinance. So those are the amendments, and if your board, for your board's consideration, you could approve the first reading of the ordinance as amended based on those amendments.
Just a quick question, sorry I didn't catch this in reviewing it. In section, what is now section 5, it says on this day of 2026, but at the very bottom it uses both dates of 2025. Do we need to do a second reading of this? Is this going to be passed in 2020? It'll be passed in next week, so should we change that to 2025?
So the effective date of the ordinance would be typically 30 days after the second reading, so I think it would fit the references as stated.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll open it up for public comment. All right, I'll bring it back to the board. And I think you would like to see it posted just along with is that what, go ahead.
I was going to take action.
Oh, okay.
I move to approve the ordinance read in title only. Help me out, please, County Council.
And that is correct. Thank you, Supervisor Sabatier. It would be approve the first reading of the ordinance to be read in title only, and then after that, the clerk will read the title for the first motion.
Second.
So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
I need to say as amended.
That is true.
A second.
Do I need to change I amend my motion, or do we are? I apologize.
Because there was a vote that already took place.
All right, so we have to rescind it.
It would be a motion to rescind the previous
I
motion.
move to rescind. Apologize.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
And then the first motion would be move to approve the first reading of the ordinance as amended to be read in title only.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Ordinance amending section 56.3 of chapter 14 personnel of the Lake County Code to establish a deputy county council attorney's unit, add positions to the district attorney unit, and update and change the title of the district attorney unit to attorneys to reflect changes in membership.
All right.
And for your board's consideration, the second motion would be to approve the draft ordinance as amended be advanced to the next Board of Supervisors meeting for consideration and possible adoption. And that would be, next board meeting would be December 16th.
And I would like to add to that on the consent agenda, please. So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
All right. That's our 6.5, right? And so we have till 9:45 on the other. Let's look at the consent agenda items. Go to 5.2, approve amendment number 1 to the agreement between the County of Lake and Canocotai Native Wellness Incorporated for fiscal years 2025 to 2030, authorizing a one-time advance payment of up to $65,000 for the purchase of an approved program vehicle, and authorize the board chair to sign. Supervisor Sabatier, you pulled this?
Yes, I did, and not sure if we have somebody from behavioral health. I know that this is only changing from a reimbursement to a upfront for the $65,000 for the purchase of a vehicle, which was already approved in the first place. I have issues with us purchasing vehicles or buildings for other people. So I will continue to vote no on this, because I just don't think that is an appropriate use of our funds. Especially what happens if the car crashes on day one, what happens if it breaks on year one. This is a 5-year contract. They get to keep the car after the 5 years. I just have concerns about how this is processed, and so want to make sure on the record that my vote is there.
All right, any other comments? Any public comment? All right, we'll bring it back to the board for action. And to my understanding, it's an advance payment, so it's not as if the county's not buying the car, right?
Well, we're giving them the money to buy the car.
Right. Yeah, and they would buy it under their
Good morning.
Yes, there we go. Elise.
I apologize. I have contracted the latest terrible illness for my son. However, I want to clarify that that was already in the original agreement. The purchase of a vehicle was included in the proposal they submitted to the opioid settlement funds, and that was approved and awarded already, not only by the panel, but also the contract originally was approved. So this is a change to allow for release of funds to purchase a vehicle. We have several other agreements with other entities where they purchase infrastructure to sustain operations. And obviously, we're all aware of the critical need of transportation, especially for our Native youth. I want to remind everybody that this is a program that supports Native youth and engages them to prevent opioid deaths. And transportation is one of our greatest barriers to engaging that population. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the amendment number 1 to the agreement between the County of Lake and Konocti Wellness, or Native Wellness, Inc. for fiscal year 25-30, authorizing a one-time advance payment of up to $65,000 for the purchase of an approved program vehicle, and authorize the board chair to sign.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2. All right, next we have 5.3. Approve the First Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between the Lake County Department of Social Services and Lake County Behavioral Health Services for the shared provision of the Lanterman Petrus Short Conservatorship Services Behavioral Health. Supervisor Sabatier, you pulled this, correct?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So if you look at the agreement, I think it's the First Amendment to the agreement on Section 4 under Staffing and FTE Estimates. It states DSS receives no state or federal funding to operate public conservator. Funding public conservator is not an appropriate use of DSS funding. Therefore, all PC staff should be funded through county general fund. I struggle to put that into writing. I think that we need to discuss our budget and figure out how it is that we are going to pay for this, but memorializing this to dedicate general funds into the future without necessarily understanding its impact or other sources that are there. I just feel this puts us in a situation that we said we would versus being open and looking around. And so putting it in writing where it's just kind of pushing us into what I see as a place of almost being mandated to do so. And I don't know that it needs to be in there.
All right, any other comments? Open it up for a public comment. And just wanted to see, Elise, if you're still on, did you have anything to add?
I do not. I defer to the direction of the board as to the language. It remains true that there is no dedicated source of funding for this in either social services or behavioral health. Thank you.
Right. So we'll bring it back for action.
So you just want that language stricken from?
Yeah, just the last part from therefore on.
And County Council, does that change anything?
Your board has the discretion to approve the First Amendment as amended with whatever changes your board has, because this essentially is a contract MOU.
Well, if there's no consequences, I'm fine with it.
Move to approve the First Amendment to the Memorandum of Understanding between Lake County Social Services and Lake County Behavioral Health Services for the shared provision of Lanterman Petrus Short, LPS, Conservatorship Services as amended, which is Section 4, striking, therefore all PC staff should be funded through county general fund direct fees to conservative estates and or BHS funds.
Second.
No.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Authorize the board chair to sign.
And authorize the board chair to sign. Thank you.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have 5.5, second reading. Adopt ordinance amending Chapter 21, Articles 11 and 12 of the Lake County Zoning Code to implement General Plan 6 Cycle Housing Element Policy HE 58 pertaining to affordable housing community development. Supervisor Owen, you pulled this?
I did. I believe, didn't you ask for which parcels that was going to affect Because I didn't see it in there.
I did ask that, but that will not change the fact that this needs to be what we need to move forward with.
Okay.
So I do hope that we can get that map to see which parcels are going to be affected by that. I feel like we're not really given a choice by the state that we have to be able to move forward. If I remember the conversation correctly, I appreciate you bringing that up. That is something I would still like to see. I think it would be helpful for all of us. But today, as is, I'm
Okay.
willing to move forward.
Okay, I just felt that we needed to see what it affected, was the reason. Okay.
I know you tried talking to me earlier about it, and I was completely
That's okay. That's okay.
All right, any other comments?
absorbed in my own thing.
Yeah, I wanted to see if we needed to pull it, so I pulled it. So-
I'll open it up for public comment. All right. Maria, did you have anything to add, or, okay, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance amending Chapter 21, Articles 11 and 12 of the Lake County Zoning Code to implement General Plan 6 Cycle Housing Element Policy HE 58 pertaining to affordable housing.
Mr. Chair, if I may, so with that motion, that consists of offering the ordinance, so that's part of the
Oh,
motion.
offer the ordinance.
Ordinance has been offered.
Supervisor Owen,
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Rasmussen,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Aye. Okay. Ordinance passes 5-0.
That's okay.
Let's see, we have 941. Sorry, I'm trying to get to this.
I articulated.
Let's do 7 point,
What is it,
what is
appointment?
it at? 4. Consideration of the following advisory board appointments: Maternal Child Adolescent Health Board, and, everyone, read the applicant. Any questions about the applicant? Go ahead.
Seems qualified for the job, is new to the committee, and rather fill up the committee than not at this moment in time, and so I'm okay with moving forward. I know she's from District 4. Not sure if,
Yeah, I'm good with it.
I'll open it up for public comment. No hands in Zoom, so I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to appoint Laura Sullivan to the Maternal Child Adolescent Health Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Let's see. Do you have a recommendation? Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break. I know that, sir, I know you wanted to talk more about the other untimed item, but I know it's going to bleed into the next item, so we'll talk about it after, probably after this next item, if we can get some time in. So we'll take a 5-minute break. We'll come back at 9:50. All right, back from the break, we'll move on to item 6.6, second reading, consideration of ordinance amending Article 6 of Chapter 18, Lake County Code to include enforcement measures and associated due process requirements for cannabis cultivation-related taxes. Treasurer Tax Collector Patrick Sullivan is here to present.
Thank you. Good morning. So this is the second reading of the cannabis cultivation tax ordinance. There were only a few small changes from the last time your board saw this item, both of which were discussed. Working with County Counsel, who was able to provide language, we incorporated the business language from the cannabis business tax ordinance. So that definition applies to those enforcement mechanisms that I believe one of the supervisors had questions regarding. The only other substantive change is that the apportionment language is struck. That was previously the section 1860.2. That language exists in the cannabis business tax ordinance, so our office will still be able to accomplish what we need to do by promulgating regulations based on that ordinance. Anything else in here was just a renumbering of the applicable sections. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Supervisor Sabatier?
No questions. Thank you very much for bringing this back so we can move forward with it.
All right, so I'll open it up for public comment. No hands in Zoom. We'll bring it back to the board for action.
I offer the ordinance.
Ordinance has been offered.
Supervisor Owen?
Yes.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye. Ordinance passes 5-0. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
All right. There we go. Should we do, should we just went with Patrick again? Did he already leave? Yeah. All right. Recommendation?
Do you want to try 7.3 since she's still on?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll go to 7.3, consideration to adopt resolution authorizing execution of program funding agreement and participation in the Behavioral Health Continuum Infrastructure Program, BCHIP, Round 1 Launch Ready Program, Behavioral Health Services. Elise, if you're on.
Yes, I am. I apologize again, board, that I am not on the camera, but I am here. Thank you. This is a resolution to execute the BCHIP agreement and to approve the project. The project has already been supported by your board with a letter of support. It was awarded. And now we are just moving forward with this 16-bed duly certified mental health rehabilitation center / ACM 3.7 facility to fill a critical gap in our continuum of care.
Right.
And I think that's all.
Supervisor Sabatier?
In the last time that we had discussed this, I had not supported this due to my personal belief that we did not follow the appropriate process. So today I will not be supporting this resolution due to the same issues that I have.
All right. I'll open it up for public comment. All right. We'll bring it back to the board for action.
I'll offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Owen?
No.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Nay.
Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye. The resolution passes 3-2. 7.4?
7.8.
8. I already did 4. Sorry. Consideration of resolution authorizing the chair of the board to approve and direct the tax collector to sell at public auction via internet tax defaulted property which is subject to the power to sell in accordance with Chapter 7 of Part 6 of Division 1 of the California Revenue and Taxation Code and approving sales below minimum price in specific cases. Treasurer, tax collector.
He's not here.
He just left, yeah.
he could be here quick.
I feel very confident in being able to move forward without the treasurer tax collector here. I think the information is readily available and very descriptive as to what's being asked of us, and this is an annual formality of moving forward with the tax auction. So whether we want to wait, that's up to you, but I'm happy with moving forward without the treasurer tax collector.
You all feel okay with that as well? All right, I'll open it up for public comment. All right, I'll bring it back to the board for action.
Now for the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Owen,
Yes.
Supervisor Spatier,
Aye.
Supervisor Rasmussen,
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska,
Yes.
and Supervisor Crandall.
Aye. And that passes. The resolution passes. Should I do 7.2 as well? Do you feel the same way about that, or should I wait for him?
I think that one you want to wait for the auditor controller as well.
Okay, there we go. All right, so 7.5. We'll move on to consideration of Community Development Department repayment plan and proposed oversight strategies. 7.5, Community Development Director. Now you're back.
We're done.
We didn't need you.
We were joking. We do need you.
For the 7.2.
For the 7.2.
He's good. He's good for now. Yeah.
Oh. I know, I just thought we had somebody waiting for that.
That gentleman's waiting for this specific.
Yeah,
Oh.
he is.
I thought that his was the repayment. I can't get rid of this darn download. I somehow hit the download button and I can't get rid of it. Where? I've tried a number of different things. It's just stuck there. It's been stuck there for a while. Oh well, that's okay. I'll try to close it. I can read over it, around it. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Mireya Turner, Community Development. Excuse me. Elise is catching. Community Development Director. The item you have before you today stems from the discussion we had at the last meeting regarding a request for a loan for the Community Development Department. The board had questions that in the last couple weeks we have worked diligently to find answers. So the presentation that you have before you today is a result of considerable work on behalf of the staff reviewing budget years, not just this past, but going back to 2020, 2021. Community development has a shared vision, which I have shared with this board and with the community at large. But what I haven't talked about was that we share core values as well. One of which being transparency, the other being a recognition of the high value of maintaining public trust. And so I think you'll find that the presentation that we have today is consistent with those core values. I know that the board did not appoint me because I'm a government budget wizard, but what you did do was appoint me to uphold the shared trust that we have of the value of public trust. I will turn this over to our deputy administrator to present, but at first I wanted to address the information that's been swirling around in the media since our last meeting, because I think it's really important to note that in order to be consistent with our core value of transparency, we be accurate, as thorough, and as well researched as possible. And so, regrettably, we were unable to answer all of the questions that were posed within the timeline that is within the media, which is a quick turnaround, because we were working to make sure that what we present for you at this requested board item is as thorough, as vetted, and as accurate as possible. And so we do regret that we were unable to work with the timeline with the media like we usually do, because it is important and they are a vital part of maintaining that public trust. But I think that the questions that were being sought at that time will be answered today. I will turn this over to Deputy Administrator Shannon Walker-Smith. We also have our accountant available on Zoom in case there are questions that you have that we need to bring him in on. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Hoping that this presentation will answer a lot of the questions that were posed to us post the November 18th meeting where we presented on this item previously. We've done significant analysis of building safety division revenue, permit data, quite a lot of data, and we kept having more and more questions. So we ended up analyzing data back to the 21-22 fiscal year, and what we found is though, although revenue is starting to trend down slightly, revenue projections have not been are not the source of this problem. What the source of this problem is a slow and steady trend of reserve spending, which started in 21-22. And most of that is due to contributions to code and planning department operations that were began in 22-23, when building reserves had gotten significantly high, up to the $900,000 range. And so community development was directed to start spending down those reserves as was appropriate at the time. Unfortunately, that spending continued. So this is kind of a summary document. We do think we can recover and rebuild this budget within a 3-year period, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that at the end of this presentation. So just to answer some of those questions about what kind of fund this is and what kind of rules there are governing it. The Building Safety Division is a special revenue fund as defined by the state. And the goal of a fund like that is to isolate specific revenues, usually because they come through a fee or a grant, so that there's transparency and accountability back to the public about the use of those funds, so that revenues in special revenue funds are legally restricted and committed to specific purpose. So they must be spent on the intended purpose of the building safety and community development operations. Fees, of course, are developed and adopted through your body, through the master fee schedule, but are mostly built on the ICC's building valuation table. So there's not a ton of room and flexibility for the department to determine what kind of fees, although it's something that hasn't been analyzed in quite some time to my understanding, and it's something, again, at the end of the presentation we can talk about as a next step. This is a citation that shows that all community development operations, these revenue funds are dedicated towards, are legally appropriate to be used. It's just that the building reserve should have been preserved more greatly for building operations than the services of the other divisions, but that we weren't doing anything inappropriate when we made those contributions to the other divisions. And this basically just talks about the state code that outlines the jurisdiction's responsibility towards the community development department, saying how it may collect fees in order to support services, but that generally the county is responsible for making sure that the funds are available for services provided by the department. So we started with looking at a lot of 25-26 numbers in comparison to 24-25, and we looked at permit numbers, permit categories. We were doing comparisons, a little bit apples and oranges because we've transitioned from Acela to OpenGov over the 24-25 to 25-26 year. So categories of permits and things have changed in our data system. So it was not an exact comparison across. We also looked at revenue accumulation from, rates last year and this year, and then obviously previous years, which you're going to see on this slides coming up. And we just found no significant deviations of note in this particular year, and that's what led us to discover that this problem goes back a little bit farther. So now we're going to look at some data. This slide shows what we projected revenue would be when we submitted budgets, and then what the actuals of revenue ended up being over multiple years. So you can see that our projections were pretty accurate until last year, where revenues did take a little bit of a decline, and quite a bit of reserve spending happened at the end of last fiscal year because of an unexpected kind of decline in revenue. But other than that, the department has been projecting revenue fairly accurately over a period of time. This slide shows how much of our budget is basically locked up in salaries and other obligated expenses, and those obligated expenses are mostly things that are assigned to us as part of the county allocation for insurance, admin services, IT services, and those other obligations that typically do come out of the budget at the beginning of the fiscal year, making it such that the building division in particular is particularly dependent on their reserves in order to kind of ride the wave of the expenses outpacing the revenue generation. In most years, this is a trend that we can see now, that the reserves have been necessary in order to keep the building division solvent during that time, and with the spend down in reserves, that's created this cash flow issue. But this slide is mostly there to demonstrate that we have really actually very little flexibility in course correction once we notice that there's a challenge happening in the budget, which we did know reserves were spending down at a rate that was unsustainable. But it's very difficult when most of the budget revenue is locked up in salaries and other obligated expenses. It makes it very difficult for us year to year to kind of make these shifts towards more fiscal health. This really starts to point out when things started to need course correction but didn't get it. So reserves were going up, peaking in at the beginning of 22-23 with I think a little over $900,000 in reserves. And so at that point, community development began to spend down reserves, and the way that they mostly did that was through this increase in contributions, as I mentioned before, to the planning and code enforcement divisions. And so then you see the lines crossing here in 23-24, which would have been a good time for us to start looking at course corrections, but unfortunately that did not happen. And so contribution kind of leveled out here, and reserve spending, reserves continued to decrease. And then this graph shows kind of all four things, the reserve and the expenses again, and then also, the reserves and the contributions again down here, showing basically that same graph line, but also revenue and expenses up here. So you can see that there's these couple of crossing points that we should have strategized around a better way to spend down revenues, maybe more in one-time services and things like that, rather than dedicating those contributions to staff positions that made it such that we couldn't really change position very quickly. So in terms of our plan and moving forward, immediately we have a pause on all intra-departmental funding, so no more contributions from building to code and planning beginning this entire fiscal year, so you won't see any of those contributions in 25-26. We've ceased all non-vital spending and hiring. We're planning to schedule monthly meetings with admin to check in and continue to strategize around these issues. And we have all purchases being approved by admin currently. Planning to make regular reports to the board as we work towards repayment, and we could do that as often as you prefer, but at least twice a year. And then this is kind of the beginning of our ask that we would like to extend the period of time over which this loan would be repaid to 3 years. And the reason for that is because we have a responsibility to also start rebuilding reserves so that we don't end up back at the beginning of next fiscal year asking for cash again. We need to have some reserves available at the beginning of the year. So this is our plan to try to take a balanced approach to both rebuilding reserves and repaying the loan. And then beyond immediately, additional plans that we have for mid-year and beyond are our mid-year building safety budget will reflect the change of no contributions to planning and code, which is going to go a long way, kind of leveling out the building division. Code and planning will also need major mid-year budget revisions, which is going to spur the conversation about some additional general fund contributions to cover that difference. We're of course focusing on being frugal, reevaluating our priorities, looking at all non-revenue generating activities to see where they fall on the priority list, while continuing to provide quality services to the community. And we have a constant focus and will continue and double down our efforts on cost recovery in the other divisions, as well as grant funding that becomes available. And then just in next steps and looking kind of for direction from your board today, we realize that we have some additional kind of more substantial options we can look at to help this department recover to a really healthy, robust budget. And so those options for your consideration are looking at fees through a robust fee analysis. As I mentioned, hasn't been done for the building division for a bit, and but could be done for all 3 divisions. But it could, potentially result in fee increases, which we know, there's the community has a lot of input about. Whether or not you want us to be looking at staff levels and efficiency analysis, and whether or not we should be reconsidering just department priorities for kind of becoming a sleeker department without as much community engagement in some of the things that we do that are not cost recoverable. That is what I have, Director.
Thank you. And before we go on to the conversation, I just want the board to recognize that the review that the staff has done has shown me that my error in this, as I'm the department head, was to take on the direction of spending down the reserves without a proper full circle understanding of where that stops and like the long-term use of those reserves. So I do apologize for that. And we will hand it back to the board in case you have any questions.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Do I have to be first? Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I feel like a lot of this is already kind of what was stated in the past of being frugal, having hiring freezes. I think the most important section that we're here is the 1 through 3, is what are the next steps. And I feel very skeptical, I guess, maybe, that this board will be the best participant to tell you specifically what to do. We're not the experts in the field. And I would like to see more of those 3 options. How do they align in options for the board to look at, which has potential impacts on staffing, which has potential impacts on budgets, and then with those options laid out in front of us of at least 2 separate options, it would be nice if we can get 3, which one do we want to move with and which one do we want to support, rather than giving you answers to 1, 2, and 3, which may not result in the outcomes that we're looking for. I'll talk specifically, so I'm hoping that CDD can meet with admin and look at the budget and look at the staffing and look at these 3 questions and come back with some options for us, because I think that's, I watched the video from last time, and I think I need to do better, we need to do better in being very clear. We asked about oversight, and I don't know that we were very direct that what I'm asking, I think, is what we were asking before, which is admin and CDD come back with some options, and I'm feeling like that's not specifically what I was looking for, but maybe I could have done better in communicating that, so I apologize. But that's what I would like to see, is some robust options for us to choose from, not criteria for us to provide to you, because that could be dangerous and go in the wrong direction. I don't want to be misleading with anything. When it comes to the loan, I would also like to see, what does a 1-year repayment look like? What does a 3-year repayment look like? And I prefer not going any longer, but what would it take to do that, rather than just asking for 3 years? Because my concern with the loan, and it's not, we now have 2 loans that we have, is anything that we loan out is coming out of our general fund reserves, and our general fund reserves, we get a quarterly report of the great investment that we're making, where we're creating more money from those reserves, and we're losing that. And right now we're wrong term, we are providing support in loans, which takes away from our taxpayers' dollars to be invested and create more dollars to go back into services into our community. And so the longer the loan is, the more we lose out on those opportunities. And so that's why I'm looking for, bring us back the professional and expert options of what really should be looked at, rather than our opinion of what we should be looking at, and what kind of different year, what kind of year options do we have for a 1-year repayment, 2-year repayment, 3-year repayment, rather than just a 3-year repayment. Because again, it's a loss to the potential revenues that we are making from the great investments that we've been doing lately. So I think that's pretty much my comments for today.
Thank you. With the new OpenGov system, we are in a much better position to do our cost recovery and fees analysis. So we're confident that that will help us to prepare information to come back to you with robust fees and cost recovery analysis. Additionally, in preparation for this meeting, we have had a number of meetings with admin that have been productive and helpful, and we were able to have the types of discussions that we don't usually get to have when we're preparing a budget, because they're busy with everybody's budgets, and so we get a little bit of time. So I'm confident that continuing meetings with admin will be productive.
And I apologize, Chair. I forgot one main thing. I just had a strange conversation out there. I won't name names, but they're thankful that since OpenGov, it seems to be cheaper to go upstairs and ask for the same thing they used to ask. So I'm wondering if you can maybe look at doing an audit to ensure OpenGov was properly activated with the right fees, because maybe that's part of the problem, is this new OpenGov, which is fairly new, which would kind of coincide with the term that we're looking at, and maybe you're not collecting the fees you should be collecting. I don't know. I don't want to increase them, but at the same time, if it was improperly inputted in the software, then that could also be a shortfall in the revenues, which would explain some of the issues.
We did double check for accuracy to the master fee schedule, but we will go back and take another look. Thank you.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yeah, I appreciate this plan and this background. I do wish it was part of the agenda so that we could have looked at it closely, at least yesterday. I do agree with Supervisor Sabatier. I thought that we were going to be getting a joint presentation with admin. So I think next time when you come back, I would really appreciate that so that we can hear from both sides. I'm glad that you're working together and having these conversations. We have been talking about CDD and the divisions being self-sustaining for a while now. And that just needs to be the ultimate goal right now. And we are adopting our master fee schedule today, so I just have to ask, because I don't see any increases there where they're clearly needed. So what type of, are you getting up to come up here? Or we can come up. I'm just wondering, like, what type of analysis happened to get us to today's fee schedule if we think that it's lower than possibly what's needed?
Well, this is the first that I've heard that it was lower than maybe the master fee schedule, so we're going to double check that. But historically, and even up to the last master fee schedule, the conversation about raising fees specifically for community development services has been one that gives the board pause. Understandably, you're trying to balance development to encourage development while also trying to encourage the sustainability, which is one of our department visions, sustainability for code and planning. What we didn't show you in our slide was 3 years ago, we started looking at other ways to achieve that sustainability, and that's actually why a couple of our positions are in existence and filled today, is to build up that grants program, which has been very successful in code. We have started having the conversations with admin regarding additional ways that we can boost that sustainability for planning. Those are ongoing, but we're not ready to make any moves for today's fee schedule update. I know that admin works on that for a while, so we'll be looking at mid-year and future fee adjustments.
Okay, so, but for now, this joint plan and options for repayment, I think we all need a little bit more solid plan, and I'm wondering, with working with admin, what is the time frame when you can come back and give that to us?
I'll defer to Stephen, so he knows the availability on his side, but our team is amenable to whatever admin wants to work out. And we did do a considerable amount of thinking to get to that 3-year program, so it's kind of just like you're asking us to show our work, which we'd be happy to do.
Yeah, I think we need to see work right now.
Sure.
Stephen?
Stephen Carter, Assistant County Administrative Officer. It would be very difficult to have the kind of plan you're looking for in 1 week, so I would ask for the first or second meeting in January. There is a lot of details that we have that weren't presented here, but I'd like to present it as a whole. Because like one thing you guys need to be very aware of is when we stop or cease the contributions to planning and code, that's a direct 100% hit to general fund that obviously we don't necessarily have. So we need to work out part of that plan at the same time. So I would suggest that we come back with a CDD plan, not just a building plan.
Right, that's what I'm asking for, all of CDD, all the divisions, the interplay between them, and well before mid-year budget.
And I did want to say one more thing. The reason for the 1 to 3 years, admin is on board with more than 1 year. And the reason why is even if they could pay, just for background right now, even though they may unlikely be able to pay by the end of 1 year, every July, they'll have a cash flow problem to where they would need a loan of about 2 months worth of salary. So that's why at the same time as paying us back, you need to put a little bit in reserve so that they don't have to come back right away at the beginning of every year, asking for more money for a short-term loan.
Yeah, it would be really helpful for us to get visuals of what that looks like.
Correct. We'll do a whole presentation.
Okay, Thank you.
Vice Chair, and then Helen, you can go after him.
Yeah, a few comments, starting with the, you know, if we're able to, well, first of all, I'm comfortable with the 3-year repayment, because I think, you know, it's important to be able to build reserves while at the same time paying that back. I know we have a resolution right now that says it's supposed to be paid back by June 30th, which is not going to happen, and so I don't know how we deal with that resolution, but I know this is somewhat of a complex budget in that a lot of times, you know, we might be getting fees paid a year or two, you know, before projects actually happen, and then that money, you know, so there's a lot of accounting that goes into keeping track of all that. So it does get complex, and I want to make sure that we're not putting too quick of a deadline on repayment. To me, it's more important to have a good plan, and rather than the actual timeline. In looking at you know, these up here, I do want to be careful with jumping to any you know, additional fees and stuff with community development, because I think that, you know, like you said, Director, you know, we want to encourage development. We don't want to get too high on fees. So me, that's one of the last things to look at. I think one of the most important things is looking at our staffing levels and efficiency and seeing how we can be more efficient with what we have and potentially save funds there as well. And yeah, I think those are my main comments right now at this point. Thank you.
Supervisor Owen?
Thank you. I'm going to echo much of what all of my colleagues have said, and I'm glad that Brad brought up the increase of fees. I'm not one that wants to increase our fees, because I feel that our fees are hindering our community from being able to do things that they want to do. So I'm wondering, as they had mentioned, both Bruno and Jessica, there was, I would like to see all the attachments attached, so not just myself, we can see it here, but there's other people that go through our agenda as well, and they would like to see this as well. So I would like to have the data and the information attached, if possible, and I know not today, but for the future.
Just to make sure I'm clear, at this point, we'd be happy to send the PowerPoint for uploading. The data that we're preparing for the next meeting will all be available publicly.
Okay, perfect. And there was, let me put on my glasses so I can see my notes. So the fees I'm opposed to, I'd like to see what else we can do within. I would like to know, when you bring in your fees, I would also like to see the comparisons, of course, so we would like the community to be able to see them as well.
Comparison of these
You
two.
have what on number 1 up there, where you're looking at possibly going
see.
robust, and again, I'm opposed to it, but if you're going to bring something forward, we'd like to have everything right here.
Got it.
So we can see it. I've been a little frustrated in the fact that we had just accepted the budget back in September, and then it was no time at all before we needed the loan, you needed the loan. And then at 1 year, now it's 3 years. So getting things cleaned up and where we have an idea of exactly where we're going, I think is important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So lastly, I remember, I want to say about 1.5 years ago, if not like sooner, I don't remember exactly, but I know in the town halls and even having code enforcement come in and discuss with the ticketing system with OpenGov, when it comes to fines. I know that I don't know the amount that's accruing. I know, in my opinion, that it's quite lenient. There's lots of concessions and time more given, and in some instances even with cannabis. And so I think I think that could help, you know, if there's a little more stringent and timely fines and ensuring that we collect those might help. That's just an opinion, though. I don't know if you can have some
Thank you.
sort of guidance to that when it comes to the records or.
To date, we have issued $500,000 in citations and fines.
Mhm.
What we will be able to collect, we'd be happy to, I'd be happy to include that information in the next presentation as well. Also including the shifts that we have made already within the department. We are spending more time identifying unpermitted work, not just for revenue recapturing, but rather also to make sure we're ensuring health and safety standards in our construction in the county. Additionally, but we would be happy to include measures that we have taken to help with sustainability.
And I'm more talking about the side of like code violations, because I drive around with people who just show me, you know, these different code violations, and I know that code has a lot to do around the whole county, and I get it. So I don't know. I just wanted to make sure I stated that so that.
Thank you.
Maybe
One of the priorities or the values of the code enforcement process has been to encourage self-abatement.
Right.
But we have also been issuing notices of violations that do come along with citations, and we'd be happy to detail that in the next presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. If there's not anything else, I'll open it up for public
I have
comment.
one more thing. With that, can you show the citations or when people are not complying versus those that were actually given fines? So what we're looking for, I've heard the same
Good
thing.
players. Yeah.
Yes, and that people that are not getting fines that have violated numerous times, that's primarily, I can see a one time without a fine, but if it's continuing and they're not getting fines, that's an issue.
Certainly.
All right. Public comment.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. Tom Lasik. I'm going to speak to you from experience. I used to be an auditor back in the 90s and a compliance auditor for our company. And I want to also thank Director Turner for being very candid, because a lot of times you don't hear that when you have a situation like this. I think what you've been presented is, again, a really good start, but I think you've already also pointed out there's a lot of things that aren't complete here that needs more fleshing out. A couple observations is, and this is, I'm not trying to be snarky or anything like this, but as an auditor, one of the things we would find when we would have situations like this is mistakes this big don't happen by mistake. You actually have to work at making it this bad. And what we mean by that is that you have controls, you have stopgap measures in your processes and in your systems, and something must have happened to prevent that from occurring. As they pointed out, this thing started 3 years ago, and it started going down. Where are the alarms that were set off to say, hey, we're overspending our reserve? Or what happened? Why did it take until less than one payday away to find out you didn't have enough money to make payroll? That doesn't happen by mistake. I know you guys have checks and balances in your process. It's not just the business department or CDD. There should have been some oversight somewhere that should have stepped in and say, hey, we're noticing your budget is going sideways, and stop it before you have to have a loan. I'm not seeing an answer to that question. I think it was pointed out that last meeting it was highly confident it can be paid back in 1 year. Now we're hearing it's highly confident it can be paid back in 3 years. But we still don't see the roadmap for that. And I think that's going to be important. What is the payment schedule? Where is the money going to come from? And then the other thing is, it was mentioned they knew it was unsustainable. So they knew years ago it was not sustainable, but nothing, what happened? Where was that? And I also want to point out that what Supervisor Pyska mentioned, we need to look through all the CDD, because usually the behaviors aren't just with one department. You know, there was a slip up, and it's not just CDD. There should have been oversight somewhere that stepped in and said, we notice your budget is going sideways. You shouldn't have to wait until it's a crisis. So I think what you're trying to do is on the right direction, but there's more that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I want to apologize for my earlier faux pas. I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for today. Again, my name's Kevin Boyd. I'm a resident of Kelseyville. And I will say this presentation, comments by the gentleman before me, make it pretty clear that mismanagement is seriously at play in this situation in terms of the funding. I would like to expound upon that a little bit. I do believe that you found out last minute as a strategy to pigeonhole your available options. As somebody who runs a budget, I would know 6 months in advance that I'm going to have a cash flow shortage, especially of this magnitude, because you would just not be hitting your numbers consistently. You would have to run some projection that says you'd have to overperform by some number in order to make it up by a certain time. I can tell you week to week if I'm making payroll 6 months from now. There were some comments in the previous meeting regarding this situation about how they would make the money. A lot of conversation here today is about how they will make the money. The way that they intend to make the money, as far as I can tell, is by extorting taxpayers for supposedly unpermitted work that happened at such a time frame in the past that they have no reasonable way to remediate the issue, especially in a timely fashion. My family is currently being extorted for a permit that happened while I was still in high school back in 2008, 2009 timeframe. There's been 2 changes in ownership of our property in that time. There's no way for me to have documentation to support what happened. And so somebody shows up and gives you a 30-day notice to pay them. My experience with that department has been desperately disorganized. I could not make any progress calling in and trying to figure out what was going on. It was openly antagonistic. I heard this line, "You bought the problem," a lot. As somebody who worked for a Fortune 200 company twice, I can tell you people do not make up those lines on their own. They're coached. And then, most recently, I've been harassed by an employee. I've already submitted a formal complaint, but I don't have any expectation anything will be done. We need to look at not just what fees they're collecting, but how they're doing it. There is no way for taxpayers to be held responsible for 30, 20-year-old permits that they could not reasonably have documentation for. It's simply not practical. And it's simply not a good idea in terms of maintaining property values in Lake County. My purchase tripled the assessed value of the property. I am paying a lot more taxes. I believe that there's a nefarious. If
you can wrap up.
Yeah. I believe that there is a incentive for the county to not have records and then go back after the fact and try and collect on permits. Because now you're locked into a property that's got a higher assessed value, you have no means to adjudicate the issue. If I get a speeding ticket, I get to talk to a judge.
Kevin, if you could wrap up.
We need to take a look at the processes, not just the accounting. The whole thing, top to bottom, has a problem. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good morning, Casey Marino, Deputy County Administrative Officer. So the Administrative Office relies on departments to accurately project their financial needs to sustain operations during the annual budgeting process. We meet with each department to review their budget and as needed throughout the year. Regular monthly meetings will continue with CDD, and next year's CDD budget will be developed in conjunction with administration. As stated on the PowerPoint, admin staff will have full signature authority and approve all purchases. Admin is dedicated to getting the building division and CDD back to a more financially stable place. It is important to note that the budget and cash balance of a fund are not the same. The budget is a planning document, which projects what revenues will come in and identifies how they are anticipated to be spent. It is balanced when those are expected or planned numbers match. The mid-year budget review identifies areas where adjustments need to be made. We do not want to minimize the severity of this issue. The largest impact has been the significant increase in the amount of transfers from building to code and planning. Code was previously part of the building division, and transfers began increasing when those divisions were split in 2020, 2021. Over the past 3 years, about $1.1 million has been transferred as contributions to those divisions, while just over $1 million was for salaries. Last year, the amount transferred to code nearly doubled. By removing the transfers from building, it creates an increase in the amount of general fund needed for code and planning. We will be working closely with CDD to reduce the amount of general fund support is needed to maintain the balanced budget.
Thank you. Public comment still?
Good morning, Board. Margot Kambara. Thank you for your attention to this serious problem. And thank you for being good stewards of Lake County fiscal resources. Just to add a few suggestions to what previous speakers have commented on, and that is taking a look at the projections for the fiscal year 26 income. So, and forgive me if you already have this in mind, but I would strongly recommend that you ask for a detailed breakdown on what that income is going to include. Does that include the Gwinnett Valley mixed-use project? I mean, it's one thing to have projections of what your income is going to be, but is that vaporware? Is that really based in reality? Where is that income? What's the basis for that income projection? As far as oversight, who has oversight over authorizing overtime? Will that come from admin, or will that be from CDD with admin oversight? I don't know. And as a previous speaker asked, what is the oversight mechanism? So CDD's budget didn't go off the rails all by itself. There should be levels of oversight. And it would be helpful to have a postmortem, so we can have lessons learned, not just for CDD, but for other departments in the county, saying, what are the warning signs when a budget is going sideways? And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Sabatier, I see your pen up.
Is there any more public comment? I just had it up for.
Oh, okay. All right. If you can unmute on Zoom and state your name for the record, we'll give you 3 minutes.
Hi, Lily Wells, Pillsbury Family Farm. And I just wanted to say that I do recall in 2024 when former Chief Building Inspector Bill Collins, alongside with Director Turner, presented to the board the reason why the county needed to switch from Excelia to OpenGov was to allow the county flexibility in increasing building fees. At the time, it was stated that the fee schedule adopted through Excelia was modeled after the San Mateo County, whose fees and fines are actually lower than what Lake County sought to establish. So it raises an important question. What is the goal of our fee structure? The goal should not be simply maximizing revenue, but establishing fees that are feasible, predictable, and equitable. Fees that the public can reasonably afford while still allowing the county to operate efficiently. As speaking as a cannabis farmer, I can say that the inspection fees have become increasingly unpredictable. Instead of there being a stable set amount that I had signed to during my code for my conditions of approval, the inspection costs continue to rise year after year, and the lack of consistency makes it extremely difficult for small operators like myself to budget, plan, or remain compliant. Stability matters in our county. not just for cannabis, but for all of the regulated industries that thrive within it and for the general public. I also want to encourage the board that you maybe need to take a harder look at your 30-30-30-10 framework and wonder whether your current allocations are truly aligned with community benefit. And particularly, I ask that you consider whether some of CDD enforcement general funds could be reduced, reallocated towards the youth programs and preventative services, and for livable wages for our in-home health care supportive services. The Sheriff's Department already receives the Department of Justice grant funding for similar enforcement.
Chair,
Duplicating that enforcement funding through the departments while underfunding youth programs doesn't strengthen our community long term.
Thank you. If you can unmute.
Good morning, board. My name is Sterling. After listening to this presentation and being a long community member, I would suggest looking into how many people have applied for permits and how hard it is to get the permits, because things are so hard in the county to be able to build. This is the reason why businesses are shutting down, because it's literally impossible with the regulations and stuff. With the general fund, I would look into how many people were hired during the time when they seen that there was a deficit and this was going on. Anybody that has common sense in business, when you are running into knowing that you're not going to be able to do payrolls, or you see that you're going to start running into a deficit, why would you hire new employees? I do agree with most of all the people that did make a comment. I really hope that this board looks into this and looks into that, because these are taxpayers. And you know, even with businesses, I've been hit with assessments on my property taxes 4 years down the road, 8 years down the road. And it's just constantly adding. And where's my money going at this point? If it's going to them and they're not managing the money correctly, then you guys as a board should probably step in and ask where all these funds are going. Why did you employ more people? How much of that overtime is going to those people, and how much is really going into all of their wages, their benefits, their overtime pays, their sick pays, their holiday pays. Anyway, thank you guys for looking into this.
Thank you. Kyle?
Yeah, thank you. I really do value the board's insight into this. I was curious to Chair Crandall's point. I would be interested to know, as far as the citations or permitting, more or less the citations though, what industries are perhaps extensions or a little bit more leniency in that, if that is the case, because we do have industries that are already kind of benefiting from, lowering or freezing their tax increases that were projection already, we're expecting. And it seems like my concern is certain industries benefiting from more of that leniency with the county. And it seems like if we're struggling with meeting our goals or what we need to maintain our programs, or that would be my concern. And I do agree that my concern as a citizen is that we pay our these fees for the public good, and if those funds aren't being stewarded in a responsible manner, that's kind of a concern of mine. But I appreciate the board looking into it, and I agree with a lot of the statements that were already previously made. But again, I would be very curious to know industry specifics that might be getting more leniency, if that is the case. Because just as a citizen, I'm just kind of curious to know why that might be, if that were true, the fact. So thank you.
Thank you. Guest.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. Angela Amaral. One suggestion I'd like to make is that maybe considering a threshold limit for reserves, that once it gets to a certain level that it triggers a review. If we have a threshold that needs to be above this, and once it hits that. Another thing I saw on there was that there was an employee review of what the employees are doing. And I think that's, since this is so heavily weighted in salaries, I think that's a wonderful idea. because I think in some instances, highest paid employees are doing work of other employees that could be work that could be done by aides or extra help employees. And in some cases, you have the highest paid employees doing those jobs. The last thing is there's talk about in October, your board heard from Mr. Rickelman regarding the Lake County is exploring potential tools to incentivize housing and commercial projects, which included a consideration of development fee deferrals. So how will that, if the fee deferrals do go into place, how will that affect the revenue for CDD, or will it? Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We'll close public comment and come back to the board. And Supervisor Sabatier, you had your pen up.
Yeah, so our job is to review and consider a budget every single year. Our job is to thoroughly go through that budget. I personally failed to see what we're dealing with today, and I think that anybody who is involved with that should also take a little bit of skin in the game, that rather than looking at who else is to blame. I heard a comment today that it struck a nerve. We need to work as a team to fix this, not try to isolate individuals, or else we're going to create larger problems than we need to deal with at this moment in time. We need to work as a team in order to recuperate. I do want to speak to what a gentleman talked about. I spoke about it last time, and I want to bring it up, and I want to bring Mr. Guintavano into the conversation. I received a white paper from your office, as did CDD, regarding the use of fees for the repayment. I will just state that I disagree with the outcome of that white paper, which says that it can be used to repay. I just don't understand how a developer in March can pay a fee that helps repay for salaries spent in October. That to me makes no sense at all. And I would like to either we speak of that, or we come back when we get more information and a deeper dive in January, which I'm totally fine with coming back in the second week of January. I think we need time to make sure we bring something robust back to the board. But I feel that needs to be a part of the conversation, because I don't know that I actually question our fees in the sense, are they too high? If somebody doing work in March is paying for somebody in October, it just doesn't make sense that the latter 6 months, you're paying for the previous 6 months. You're supposed to be paying for the service and the time spent. That time spent is a complete package. You're paying for the electricity, you're paying for the payroll, but it's a portion of it. It's not a large portion of it. And it's supposed to be an appropriate amount. And we're supposed to be doing our studies when we get to our fee structure, our fee schedule that we create. They don't come out of thin air. So I feel I need to bring that up, because I do still have concerns in the way that we have used our funds, the sense that we've used reserves from building to help pay for planning, completely different projects. I have concerns on that. And I also have concerns in this concept that what we're being offered is to repay, still using fees, but to repay for something that has no connection with what people are actually paying for when they come in March or April or May. And so I would like to see if Mr. Guintavano wants to speak to that. I know he's also seen this white paper, or if it's something that we can have a more robust discussion at a later time in January.
Go ahead, Lloyd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So outside of providing some highlights or summary to that, more preferable option would probably be the latter, which is to make it a part of the discussion, especially since I would anticipate between now and the January date where staff would come back to the board, I anticipate there would be further discussions on what your board deems to be the plan or the direction being given to staff by today pursuant to that, we could incorporate that in the presentation and discussion for January.
So just one last thing I was thinking of while Supervisor Sabatier was talking is I heard the mention of fees and time, time used, so the time spent on some of the projects by your staff. I wanted to see if we could look at how much work is done outside that normal scope, because I know that is it all hands on deck, like when it comes to, I'll just throw something out there like a PRA. Is there specific people that have to do that and now are taken off of the tasks that are funded tasks, if you will? Just maybe see a count of that type of work that's done that really doesn't, it's just doing the work, but it's not accruing any type of, recouping or anything like that.
Thank you. Staff is already working on compiling a list of the activities that we do perform that are not revenue generating.
Mm-hmm.
You'll find most of those are in planning because land use touches so many different outside our agency activities that we do spend time assisting other agencies, other departments like the Area Planning Council on their, the TAC, I forget the acronym, but, or CEQA for other departments, or working on the housing element, conducting public meetings, things like that that are not revenue generating. We'll have a detailed list for you available as part of the next presentation.
Right.
But that's also part of the reason of compiling that list is because we do so many things that are not permit or revenue generating that it's a good part of our visioning process right now to see what priorities maybe we need to
Triage.
Yeah, to separate, to focus more on getting those permits that are generating revenue through the process, as well as identifying unpermitted building. That's not just for revenue generation, that's actually for making sure that the community knows that we value verifying the health and safety of work that's taking place in the county to make sure that our people are going to be safe. So, but anyway, I digress. I will be happy to present you with a detailed list.
And I think it goes without saying also where the grants covered the work.
Sure.
Too. Whether it's, yeah, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Anything else to close with? Are we good?
No, thank you. We appreciate your input.
Could we make sure that the direction is clearly understood from both admin and CDD? I just want to make sure we don't walk away thinking it was clear, that it truly is clear, and I'd love to hear it from staff as to what direction they believe they've received.
I can start with what we have so far is the board is requesting an additional agenda item in mid-January that will be presented to you in a team manner by both admin and community development. It will cover a number of items, particularly showing you the process that we went through to get to the preference of the 3-year loan, but also what a 1-year loan would look like, what necessary changes might have to happen in order to do that and not come back in July with another request for a loan for those reserves. It will also include more detailed work of the day-to-day activities in planning and code, specifically items that are not covered by revenue versus, and also what is covered by grants. Sounds like we have an additional information on county council that is now getting added into that to sort of further clarify the normal budget process that we have had of supporting community development activities, just helping to flesh that out a little bit more. As well as an update on citations to this point, code enforcement notice of violations and citations, and how many of our cases, open cases in the recent past are self-abated versus what is taking extra work on our time. Also looking to see if there are any chronic cases that are not gathering violations and citations and fees and fines at that time. I think that's what I've got. Anything I've missed?
Supervisor Pyska?
Do you have time to add in the fee analysis, at least a high level, to see if we're
We can
hitting the mark or not?
Start with that. We were hoping to have a year of OpenGov capturing the cost recovery time in actuality to report that, but we'll give you what we got. Sure.
And just for clarification, not just a team presentation, but a team approach to looking at the options and bringing back that as a presentation.
Thank you. I considered that implied, but I appreciate the clarity.
I thought it was implied last time too, so I thought I'd clarify.
Lloyd, did you have anything that looked like? Okay. All right. With that, I think you have direction, which has been stated. Thank you again for this discussion.
Thank you.
All right. We are past our 10:30, so we'll go to that. 6.7, consideration of Lake County Behavioral Health Services Fiscal Recovery Plan, status update, and board endorsement of ongoing implementation. Elise Jones, if you...
Yes,
Yep.
I am here. I apologize. Johanna, would you be able to bring up the presentation? It is, isn't it attached to the item?
All right.
Thank you. If you wouldn't mind, if you're, yeah, oh, you're so good. Okay. Sensational. So this is an update on our fiscal recovery path that we promised. We have been working really hard with a couple of different consultant entities to bring this to you. Next slide, please. Okay. So this slide deck was actually developed in partnership with the California Mental Health Services Authority, who has been working with us to develop, they love this word, by the way, a bespoke technical assistance package to support Lake, but also have been using this experience to develop a wider fiscal academy offering for all behavioral health plans, given the complexity of payment reform. So we're going to look at the actions we've taken to stabilize our financial position to ensure sustainable loan repayment. We are going to highlight some major cost savings that have already been implemented. We're going to explain our strategies to try to maintain service continuity while maintaining fiscal discipline. Clarify our cash flow and governance considerations, and present next steps on the timeline for full loan repayment. Next slide, please. Okay, if you didn't know, Cal MHSA is a JPA in membership with all 58 California counties, I believe, at this time. They take on a variety of statewide behavioral health initiatives, including notably our electronic health record. You all are maybe remembering the trials and tribulations we had around the development and implementation of our electronic health record. So we are really delighted at this level of support from CalMesa to enhance our understanding and operation of behavioral health finance. So this is the areas where they're supporting us with a lot of expertise. This is coming also out of a 6 month, I would say, yeah, about 4 to 6 month engagement period we had with Boston Consulting Group, that led a really focused and intensive forensic audit, I would say postmortem analysis, if you will, of our financial position. All right, next slide, please. Okay, here's a fun one. Okay, so a lot of the cost savings we're trying to achieve are going to happen through contract negotiations. Specifically, they're going to happen through the negotiated rates, particularly in outpatient fee-for-service contracts. Hospitals get to basically state their rate and tell a county what it is, and counties have to pay. Similarly, mental health rehabilitation centers and all types of non-outpatient placements essentially get to set their rates, and the county, whatever Medi-Cal doesn't pay for, is obligated to cover it essentially on behalf of the mental health plan's beneficiaries. So the biggest lever that we have to pull in terms of driving down contracted costs is our outpatient fee-for-service rates. You may remember that we have we have the highest outpatient fee-for-service rates in the state of California. I mean, not by a huge margin, but it's still up there. And so we were able to come into payment reform offering a really robust pass-through rate of 65% on these rates to our contracted providers. After this intensive analysis, we realized that 65% is not a sustainable pass-through for the mental health plan. And so we negotiated down to 59% pass-through with community behavioral health effective on September 1st of this year. That small seeming change actually freed up $2.6 million in savings for the current fiscal year, and a projected net expense to decrease from 1.94, a reduction, pardon me, of 1.69 million in 26-27. So that was a big, that's our largest contract. That's why it's so impactful. This is, I believe, I want to say the contract max is in the millions, multi-millions. So that's why the numbers are so big when you play with small percents, right? So we did that, and on to the next slide. Okay, so we have also been renegotiating one by one from most impactful to least impactful, all of our contracts. We had to take a very nuanced approach to each contract because some of these services are incredibly difficult to provide. The county is not in a position to provide them. So at the top of the list, we do have Redwood Community Services that we will be engaging with soon. We also have Lake County Office of Education that is contracted with us to provide fee-for-service outpatient specialty mental health services. So we're currently in negotiations with Lake County Office of Education about that rate. Phoenix House is a crisis stabilization unit, so not a lot of leeway there. However, in these placements, Paradise Oaks, Creative Alternatives, EA Family Services, those are all programs known as short-term rehabilitation facilities, aka group homes. And the group homes, we have successfully offered a pass-through rate at 45% of our fee-for-service. They do provide select fee-for-service services to youth who reside in these group homes that can be billed to the mental health plan of that youth's county of origin. And so those are some cost drivers that we are currently negotiating. Next slide, please. Is this? Oh, thank you. Okay. We've really been pleased with Cal Mesa stepping up to provide us and develop literally advanced analytic tools around Medi-Cal revenue in particular is incredibly difficult to track from soup to nuts, like as you watch the dollar. And so they're building dashboards to help us better visualize that, because it's very difficult to predict when you have a hard time seeing where the cash flows up through the state, the feds, and then back down. We are always focused on increasing billable services, optimizing billable processes. Ironically, that's one of the drivers of our cash shortfall is that when you do provide more services or capture more services in billable Medi-Cal hours, you drive up your costs, right? And so having to balance that out is something we're working on. We do anticipate a minimum 1% increase in billable service generation starting in the next fiscal year. I think that's extremely conservative, but that's where we'd like to sit. And as you can see, even increments in 1% lead to pretty substantial gains. This work is ongoing. It's also a broader body of work that touches all counties. And so, in a way, we were the first to painfully find out some of the challenges that I won't say were invisible, but were hard to detect in payment reform and overall CalAIM. And so, I'm very hopeful and optimistic about the support we have to move forward. Next slide. Okay. We can claim for stuff that we can't bill Medi-Cal. That's called administrative claiming. So, you consider people like myself, not my deputies. Actually, I do have one deputy that does bill Medi-Cal because she's getting her hours mostly. But, I'm dead weight, right? I don't bill Medi-Cal. So people like me, our salaries come out of grants. They come out of BHSA, they come out of realignment. They come out of a variety of sources. And so some of that work actually it wasn't super clear, but we're working on the processes of how do we actually fill out and submit the claiming, and that is happening, and we are getting paid for some of this work we didn't realize we could get paid for, which is really nice. Net revenue is set to increase because of that. We're working on claiming as much as possible because we do have a lot of administrative burden as the county mental health plan. Again, I want to be clear, this is not regarding DMC ODF plan. That's a separate budget unit, separate everything. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so just the CBH contract renegotiation, which, by the way, that amendment will come to your board next week. That achieved us $2.6 million in savings for this year. We're looking at an additional savings of about $120K from renegotiations of smaller provider contracts, and conservatively looking at $200,000 increase in revenue from administrative claiming. We're going to continue to look at the CBH contract and provider contracts as a whole, having a year-over-year reduction. We're going to have to work very carefully of how to balance service continuity within that. The net expense for smaller provider contracts is projected to decline a much more modest amount. But the sustained gains we hope to achieve from billing administrative hours and having a better throughput with revenue is hopefully going to stabilize us. Next slide, please. Okay, so looking at loan repayment, our plan is to use our patient care revenue, which is our percentage of the money that we keep off of Medi-Cal claims for running the plan. As well as 1991 and 2011 realignment and BHSA funds to repay the remaining loan balance. That gets tricky because we have seen our realignment dollars slowly dry up to virtually nothing because of our state hospital placements, the increase in cost, and also we saw, I believe, 4 placements open up, or 2, it was either 3 or 4 placements open up in the last year for individuals that had been waiting for a long time. And when those individuals get placed, that tends to hit our budget really hard. So hospitalizations is also silently eating into these funding streams, and BHSA. But we are working on our integrated plan, so that's a little bit complex too. So this loan obviously served as a temporary bridge to cover expenses. As revenues are received, we will repay. We do not foresee any compliance risks with using these funds. We note that it was brought up at the last meeting to consider using opioid settlement funds. We do not believe that is an allowable or acceptable use of OSF funds. nor are we able to identify other grant funds that could be used for loan repayment. Next slide, please. Cash on hand. This is updated and it's a little bit higher, and I apologize, I don't have the number right today. But as of the 1st, we run it every week, just to look at our cash on hand. It was $745,000, and that's unencumbered. So that's taking out payroll, and that's taking out some other match funds that we have to have for grants. We are still anticipating patient care revenue here any day now, totaling a few million. What we are doing differently that has been painful, I think, for contracted providers and a change of business practice that probably should have happened a long time ago, but because of the claims lag, essentially, as you all know, we had been paying providers and fronting the money essentially before we got paid. So we're not going to do that anymore. You only get paid once we receive the money from your claims that's attached to those services. So we'll have to wait for that invoice to be fully reconciled first before we can issue payment. And of course, the contract rates, right? And looking at that regularly. So we've been working very hard with our providers on figuring this all out in partnership together. Next slide, please. Okay. I think we covered most of this. We've made a lot of rapid changes. We have long-term support from Cal Mesa's fiscal optimization team at no cost to us. Certainly the valuation of that is at least in the thousands. If we got hundreds of thousands of dollars of free support from Boston Consulting Group. But that's where we're at. And I would also just like to, or next slide actually, please. Next slide, sorry. Okay, thank you. I would also just like to make a note that when we're considering the lost interest, which I know was around $80,000 a year, behavioral health, as we've been doing an audit essentially of where all of our, very closely following all of our dollars, part of this led to the renegotiation of the DSS MOU. We're not able to support LPS conservatorship services with DSS to the degree that we had prior. And nor are we required to. We do a lot of work, including financial contributions with other departments, because out of a shared sense of community, or it's the right thing to do, or it seems to align, even though that's not a statutory regulation for us. So we're looking very closely at what our mandates are and shoring up where we need to identify where we should focus our work. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, questions from the board? Supervisor Sabatier.
I appreciate the update. A little disappointed that we have to wait till March 2026 to really get a timeline of when things may change. I was hoping that the 10 weeks where somebody who is contracted to help with these types of situations would provide that level of detail. I guess my first question is, I'm glad that we're doing contract negotiations. It makes me question what was the negotiations in the past, because these are huge drops. And I guess my question is, but we're not expecting to see a decrease in services, just a decrease in what our expenses would be. Is that correct?
No, not entirely. There is going to be a decrease in services. At this point, it looks like our therapists, our licensed therapists, we're having to consolidate that. So essentially the extent to which that impacts patient care directly, I can't quantify, but I know that it will have an impact. And to be clear, the timeline presented is verifying that we will be in a position to execute this loan repayment and have stability. So I apologize, I did not understand, I guess, and nor did the Cal Mesa team understand that specific directive. But to me, this does lay out a timeline.
And so what is the timeline to pay the $2 million?
Yeah, so we're still looking. The resolution is in effect through the end of the fiscal year.
Gotcha, so that would be June 30th, 2026.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, guess that's all I have right now.
Supervisor Pyska.
So, I mean, clearly there's benefit from working with Boston Consulting Group. And there's a lot that, I mean, as you mentioned, this is so complicated, so we've gotten a lot of benefit out of it. How long is that relationship anticipated to last?
Oh, thank you. So, in fact, our engagement with Boston Consulting Group concluded a few weeks back, and we did a handover meeting with Cal Mesa to take this work on because it was identified more broadly that this was an issue throughout all counties. And so, effectively, they're working with us not only to create our bespoke technical assistance, but also to use it to inform the work of other counties. So, at this point, we're working directly with Cal Mesa and will continue to do so in perpetuity.
Okay, so, but some of the practices or some of the findings, do you feel confident that, you know, looking at it in this new way, you'll be able to carry that forward?
Yes, I wish I had known it 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Supervisor Spotted.
I want to add something, something I know I've discussed with the CAO's office on multiple occasions, and I just want to bring it up. We have two different departments right now that are in a struggling financial situation, trying to recover from that. And there's a lot to know when it comes to finances from a county perspective. A lot of different things going on, grants, what's billable, what's not billable, fees, things like that. I just want to plant a seed that I think that we have departments behaving differently in their ways of accounting rather than having a very standardized process that across the board is the just the standard practice that we should see from these. I'd love to look at a proposal and have an open discussion and dialogue about a centralized accounting department that can do accounting for all of our departments so that there is a standard billing, there is a standard accounting, and because I think we're great, and I say this at least in the departments that we're speaking of, I think we're great in the service that we're trying to provide to the public, but I don't think we're great necessarily sometimes at some of the stuff that's done in the background. And I think that if there was one department that focused solely on that, rather than maybe the passion that's within the department of serving the public and the services they're providing, that it would take that away and it would help us be able to raise the flags when we need to raise the flags when things are not going well so we can catch it earlier, and being able to have a standardized, known and predictable practice of across the board how things are done in the county. I have been speaking to CAO Parker about this probably at least maybe the last 6 months, just in ways to make efficiencies within the system of our county government. And we've just discussed two different departments, and I just want to put it out there that I think that could be a potential solution. I don't know, but I would love to open that dialogue.
Supervisor Pyska.
Well, I mean, I think it's not the discussion for today, but it is something to consider. We've also talked a lot over the last 2 years about training in our department head meetings, and trying to give those department heads, get everybody working with the same tools and along the same line. So I think there's work to be done to improve it, but I don't think that's the conversation for today.
And I think it's very related in the sense of the future stability of our finances is part of this discussion as well as part of the CDD discussion that we had. And so just something in the future that I think will be coming down the pike. I just want to plant the seed because I think it's a potential solution. It may not be the solution, but just looking to make things easier for the future.
All right. Anything to add? Did I open it up for the public? Not yet. Public comment, if there's anyone that would like to provide public comment on this item. All right, with that, I'll bring it back to the board. Lloyd, I know that we have a series here of, I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, so, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's 5 items as far as the requested recommended actions. I believe items 1 and 2 can be achieved by board motion, if your board's willing to consider it. And then I believe 3, 4, and 5, and Director Jones can clarify this, 3, 4, and 5 can be provided via board direction just by consensus. So there would be a separate motion for item 1, motion for item 2, and then 3, 4, and 5, if Director Jones is amenable to that, can be provided to staff via Director Jones by consensus to your board.
All right.
Sure, thank you, council.
I'll start with the first motion to receive the staff presentation on the Lake County Behavioral Health Services Fiscal Recovery Plan and accept the status update.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
And number 2, move to endorse the ongoing implementation of the fiscal recovery plan, including subsection A receipt-linked disbursement policy, sequence provider payments to state receipts. B, a 2 payroll cash reserve floor as an operating guardrail. And C, use of payment waves and partial payments to maintain essential services, patient safety, licensed placements, and core partners. And D, contract controls, which includes spending caps, ceilings, tune-ups, and monitoring of speed versus cap.
Second.
Supervisor Sabatier, I see you were,
I cannot speak intelligently to what receipt-linked disbursement policy is. I don't see a policy in front of me. I cannot speak specifically to the 2 payroll. I see words. I can't explain if somebody asks me what we're endorsing specifically. I know we just had a presentation, but to endorse something that I can't explain right now with words that I don't know that I heard receipt-linked disbursement policy in the presentation. Maybe I missed it, but I'd say right now we have a resolution, needs to be paid back by June 30th, 2026, is what I heard. In March, we're going to get more information, but it's hard for me to endorse something that I really cannot explain to you intelligently what that is. So I cannot approve this because I just don't understand it. I don't know what it is. There's no documents other than a memo in the presentation that we received.
loud and clear. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Motion carries 4-1. All right, in consensus, you said is,
For if your
direction.
board is,
3, 4, and 5 would be consensus for direction to staff.
I think we have a consensus. All right. With that, I think we can conclude this item, move on to the next one, which is, I know we are at 2 minutes before.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I would recommend taking up 7.6 and 7.7 before the fee schedule, since they're here in the chambers.
All right, 7.6.
And 7.7.
Consideration of direction to staff on the water connection standby status, Special Districts Administrator Robin Borey.
It's not
Yeah, there you go.
Good morning, Board and CAO and Attorney and our constituents. This item before you is to provide us, staff, with direction on a past practice that has been done by previous administrations to require people that do not have a building permit that is active or a dwelling on their property that they must put their water service in standby, which incurs an additional cost to them, and they're not allowed to use the water. So we reached out to the attorney's office and got a ruling from them that our ordinances are, and our rules and regs are permissive to allow residents or property owners to request to be put on standby if there's no use for 4 months. However, there's nothing in there that says shall or we can require, and that is what the past practice has been, is that administration has required these people to be on standby. So this item before you is to provide us with direction as to which direction you would like us to go, either continue to enforce the shall or resort back to what the ordinance and our rules and regs say and allow the property owner to determine if they want to be on standby or not. And to give you a magnitude of costs, the Findlay district is $5 bi-monthly for it to be on standby in addition to the base rate. Konotehi is $37.20 bi-monthly in addition to their base rate. Kelseyville is $5 bi-monthly. North Lakeport is $34.76 bi-monthly. And these are all in addition to their base rate. So they're paying for the regular water service plus these additional amounts. Soda Bay is $22.32 and Spring Valley is $12. Some of them are very small amounts, so you know the residents may continue to be on standby, but some of them, the other ones, are very high, and so we're here to ask for your direction and which direction you want us to go.
Thank you, Robin. Yes, go ahead.
And what's the base rate?
The base rate varies by different areas, depends on what the area is. Like Spring Valley is $60 and $64 every other month. Jesse, do you know?
Not off the top of my head. They're generally between $60, $70 for the base rate bi-monthly.
And that's with them not using water.
And that's with them not using water. Some of the areas have allotments of water with their base rate. Other ones have different allotments, and then they have to start paying for use of the water. So each one is different, and those were all adopted by the ordinances. I do have the ordinances, but they don't have the inflators on them. So we can get that information if you would like.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understood this. Did you say that these are unimproved properties without a building permit?
Correct.
Because it wasn't in the memo, so I wasn't sure about that.
Yeah, that's the requirement that they had be previously. If people, we have water connections all over the county, and there's no improvements there. Maybe their house burned down in one of the fires, or they got the connection with the intention of building and they haven't built yet, or but that was been the past practices, that they had to have an active building permit or a dwelling.
Oh, well, I'm okay with the staff recommendation.
I ask, what is the cost to the district per?
Well, a while back, when we were doing rate studies, we found out that the billing was not being done correctly. So the base rate for all of these properties were not being charged. So this is basically adjusting it back to what it should be. It's not a significant cost. I think it's $100,000 increase from what we were collecting or weren't collecting on the base rates. That was about $100,000 countywide, so all the different districts. So this won't be much. Like Spring Valley, I believe there's 100 of them in there, and so 100 times 12 connections times 6 times, it's not a significant dollar amount.
Okay, but I meant, what cost is it to the county?
The cost to be on standby?
Yes.
There's really no
cost, so it's pure profit.
Correct.
That's what I was asking.
Yes.
That's what I was looking for.
Vice Chair?
No, I was going to ask a similar question. So
Okay. Supervisor Spatier?
Just a couple of things. Appreciate you giving me the ordinances. Would be really, I think, helpful to attach the ordinances so that the public can read through as well and understand exactly what we're talking about. It even mentions as attached, but there's nothing attached. So I'm not sure if that was the intention or not. So I just think it helps in the conversation, especially to invite people to comment on that. If what you're asking is, after 4 months of no use, that a letter is sent to see if they want to be on standby, and that is the process, or for those that are currently in standby to again receive a letter to make sure they still want to be in standby. I think it's the right thing to do because we shouldn't be charging people for things they're not using, and I think it's just the kind thing to do, but I understand the reason for the standby charge because you have access to it. It can be turned on. It's not just you're a property but haven't built a lateral system that connects already. So I'm okay with doing that rather than doing a shall or anything like that. That makes probably a lot more complications.
Go ahead.
So when they put them on standby, they're being charged. So if they take them off standby, is the structure still there, but they're not being charged? I'm just clarification.
So let's say somebody has a vacation home here, they don't use the water for 4 months, and they can request to go on standby, but everybody's still getting charged the base rate. And so this has been an additional, basically a convenience fee. Just so, it makes it so that people can't, squat in their houses or, use the water, or if they have a water leak, then, it saves them from, huge costs on that side of things. So some may want to be on that, but it's also been prohibitive to, people won't be able to use they're paying for it, but they can't use it. So if they had a hose bib and they wanted, to start trees around their property or something, they have no access to water.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a quick question. If I'm on standby and then I use water, is there a penalty that comes along with my not changing that up?
It's actually locked, so.
Yes, it's turned off.
So we lock it off, so somebody can't come turn it on unless they cut it.
There's
And
ways.
so then if they cut it off, then we have a lock charge and that kind of stuff, that we would work with them on.
Okay, because there's a will, there's a way.
All right, I'll open it up for public comment. Sterling, if you can unmute.
Yes, good morning. Obviously, you guys all know me about fighting for Spring Valley, and I am here to speak for most of the community with the standbys. There's a lot of people in this community that would love to be able to turn their water on. There's about 12 to 20 homes that burnt, and they can't have their water on because they don't have a dwelling or a permit. There's people that bought these properties out here to come out here and vacation. They want to come out here and enjoy the property, leave the city, and now they can't enjoy this. So I really do encourage you guys to allow this. The cost that special districts gets from Spring Valley from the standbys is going to be over $40,000 for them not to even be able to use their water, not 1 ounce. So plus you got to look at the fact that people pay over $25,000 for a meter in Spring Valley and then be told that they can't turn it on. So as a Spring Valley community member and the person that has been fighting with the water for out here, I would highly suggest to allow the community members to be able to turn their water on and start making their property more valuable, more fire, protective. That if they had a hose bib there and say something happened and they're on their property mowing, they'll be able to put that fire out. So it is more than just a convenience. It is for safety. And then I just hope you guys do approve this. So thank you.
All right, thanks. Any other public comment? All right, I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for direction.
I'm good with it.
Mm. You have direction.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Robin and Jesse. Let's see, so we are now on 7.7, right? That's what you said? Consideration of A, authorization for Special Districts Administrator Assistant Purchasing Agent to issue a purchase order not to exceed $625,000 to Energy Systems, Generac Industrial Power, and B, Special District staff effectively applied federal procurement standards for the purchase of 11 standalone appropriately sized generators ranging from 30 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts capacity. Robin?
Good morning again. This item came before you previously, and you approved the purchase of the generators. And then the federal administration changed, and we ran into issues getting responses from FEMA with the approval of the purchase, and that delayed all of that. And then the tariffs were applied. So these generators have actually gone up for all in total, there's 11 generators, about $65,000 or $6,000 per site. And so we're bringing the item back to be transparent as to what happened and to seek approval to move forward with the purchase at the additional cost. The grant is $420,000 of this, and so the county pays about $200,000 for the 11 generators. So each, and they're spread out to North Lakeport, Kelseyville, Southeast, all the different areas. And Jesse's here to explain, all the process that he's had to go through to amend the purchasing with FEMA and jump through all their new hoops and stuff. So if you have any questions about all of that additional work that we've had to do and why the cost has gone up.
Go ahead, Supervisor Spate.
You should submit it before they change their mind again. These are static?
Correct.
Okay.
And they'll have automatic transfer switches, so when the power goes out, a couple seconds later, it pops back on. So then we won't have high wet wells or other issues like that. Our water, if we have a fire going on and they shut off the power, our wells will continue to operate and that kind of stuff.
That's kind of important.
Yep.
It would be nice in the long run, no rush, to find out what sites are not operated with a static generator. I know you have some generators that you can move around. We've seen that during our emergencies. But I know you and I have gotten some complaints about some areas that don't have some battery backup. It would be nice to just kind of get a map to see which ones. Thank you.
All right, I'll open it up for public comment. All right, close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair,
1 second, Lloyd.
I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So with, there's sub-items A and B, both separate motions for your board's consideration. The suggestion here would be to take B first, because effectively, that's a waiving of the competitive bidding requirements under the Lake County Code. And if your board wishes, I could walk your board through the motion language for that.
Go ahead.
So the first motion would be to waive a motion to waive the competitive bidding requirements pursuant to Lake County Code 2-38.6 under the federal procurement standards for the purchase of 11 standalone appropriately sized generators ranging from 30 kilowatts to 150 kilowatts capacity.
so moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries 5-0.
And the second motion would be to authorize the special district's administrator as the assistant purchasing agent to issue a purchase order not to exceed $625,000 to Energy Systems Generac Industrial Power.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, would you like to take up 6.8?
Yes, there we go. 6.8, consideration of a resolution amending the master fee schedule for departmental services rendered by the county. Casey Marino, Deputy County Administrative Officer.
Good morning. So yes, we have the master fee schedule. There's just a few changes for building and permits. It's removing the link to the website that does not actually work. So we're removing that from building. And then for public health, there was an update to the birth certificates from the state. And so those are being updated by $2 each. And then the tuberculosis skin test, that is a new fee that they would like to add.
Any questions? I'll open it up for the public. Any public comment? Bring it back to the board for action.
Offer the resolution.
Resolution has been offered.
Supervisor Owen?
Aye.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Aye.
Supervisor Rasmussen?
Aye.
Supervisor Pyska?
Yes.
And Supervisor Crandall?
Aye. That resolution passes 5-0. And then we have, thank you, we have 6.9, which looks like we're going to move that to a future date to be determined, but I'm going to read it off real fast. Public hearing, consideration of an ordinance amending the purchasing ordinance, Article 10 of the Chapter 2 of the Lake County Code to clarify powers and duties, additional exemptions from competitive bidding, and include increased purchasing limits for public projects. CAO Parker.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We'd like to move this item to a date and time certain in the future, and I recommend January 13th at 11:30 for your board's consideration.
Johanna, does that work for you? Yes? All right, any comments? I'll open it up for public comment. Steven stood up. I'm teasing, I'm teasing. I'll bring it back to the board for action to move this to that date.
Mr. Chair, I move to continue this public hearing to January 13th at 11:30 a.m.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. All right, so we're at 11:45. Let's see, we can do 7.2. You don't have them here?
He's going to get them right now.
So should we do calendars?
Yes.
7.1 calendars. Who would like to go first?
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Let's see, we haven't reported for a while, but last week was all spent at CSAC, which was a good learning experience for me, so I'm glad I went. Previous to that, I attended LAFCO and First 5 meetings. I worked the Gleaners Food Distribution, the second one in November, which was a very, very high attendance. Attended Operation Tango Mike, Coal Creek Advisory Meeting, worked on the Lakeport Christmas Trees Project, helped a college student with a project, had a check-in meeting with the Chamber of Commerce, the Lake County Chamber, ad hoc meeting with the Public Works, Public Services Review, attended the Fairgrounds infrastructure funding announcement yesterday with Senator McGuire and other supervisors. Had a meeting with the Lakeport Mayor. Attended APC LTA meetings. Space Committee meeting is coming up this week, as well as Big Valley Groundwater meeting and Mental Health Advisory Board meeting. Also a meeting coming up with City Manager. A Clear Lake Hitch Summit. First 5 commission interviews for candidates before they come to the board. And then I'll attend Reefs Across America this weekend and participate in a simple gesture, and also attend the Gleaners Benefit Concert that Mr. Rothstein and others are organizing. That's it. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, last week at CSAC, it was really productive. My policy committee meetings were 2 parts, and I think some of you were there. So one day was talking about SGMA, groundwater, and ag, and the other one was talking about the Wildfire and Forest Resilience Task Force. And then I also participated in the roundtable talking about our quick response to the shutdown and the CalFresh delays. So that it was really good opportunities to highlight the work that we're doing here in Lake County. And yeah, yesterday I was at the meeting at the fairgrounds with Senator McGuire. Tomorrow I've got NACO EELU call, and then the NCO governing board meeting is going to be in Ukiah. And then in the evening, I've got the Big Valley Advisory Committee meeting. Thursday, starting with the Space Committee, then Fire Safe Council. Then I have 3 different overlapping calls, but the one they're all 3 NACO calls, but WIR is the one that I'm going to prioritize. And then we've got the LCRA rec agency meeting in the afternoon. And then Friday, again, 3 different things overlapping. The Lake County Feeding Partners meeting and the Wildfire Task Force meeting, which I'm not going to go to Sacramento for. I'm going to try and catch pieces of it here, but I also have a doctor's appointment in there too. So make those 3 work as well as I can. And then Geothermal Advisory is going to be at the SAW shop, and then the Resilience Hub work group. I hope I can catch that as well. And then Monday, I'm meeting with CIO Parker, Risk Reduction Authority, which, is it in Lakeport? Now there's like so many.
We just did Clear Lake.
We did Clear Lake, so it is Lakeport. So then I will get to the California Women in Ag Social, which is also in Lakeport. So that'll be a full evening and afternoon, and then back here on Tuesday.
All right.
Go ahead.
So last week, just a little bit of what happened in CSAC. In the Administration of Justice, I thought it was great. We had 2 speakers from Lake County. We had Director Elise Jones and Chief Probation Officer Wendy Monfrance, who represented Lake County well in speaking about opioid settlement funds, and as well about Prop 36 and the concerns of the funding for probation, especially as probation takes on such a great role. It was really great to see. Marin County took great interest in what our probation department was doing, and so they connected. And so that was good to see. And I know also Supervisor Carmen, who's from Glenn County, was speaking about some of the his learning of opioid settlement funds being used to pay for correctional officers in his jail, Humboldt County Jail, and others to try and deal with the opioid situation. I have been to the jail medical meetings here locally, and it's a vast majority of our inmates deal with opioid issues, and so seemed appropriate for other jails to be using those funds for such things as well. So good meeting. I want to say one of the takeaways of just the complexities in which we're getting ourselves into is we have a federal government who is very specific on what they're asking for, which is definitely a change from what was being asked before. And then we have a California government who is very specific on what they're asking for, and somehow seems to be almost a polar opposite of what the federal government is asking for. So for example, the continuum of care is going to find themselves in a little quandary, where what they're not allowed to say or use in their policies or in their grants are the exact opposite of what we're required to use and say in our policies and our grants when going into California. So I feel like we're all going to be walking around with 2 sets of policies, one for our federal government and one for our state government, so that we can comply with both. But it's going to create a little bit more work, and it's going to create potential conflicts coming up. And one of those conflicts is, I don't have the exact acronym, but it's HAP. It's what we've been relying on heavily from the COC as well as behavioral health or Lake County. Behavioral health is the recipient of those funds. That have been used to deal with our unsheltered population. And what we're being asked from the state is, if you don't have pro-housing designation, you get nothing. If you don't have an updated housing element, you get nothing. If you don't show equity policy, you get nothing. And the list goes on, even to the point of, if you don't have a encampment cleanup policy, you're not going to get anything. And on the other side, the federal government is saying, if you don't have an illegal camping policy, you don't get it. And so we're going to have to walk on eggshells as we try to maneuver through both. As somebody mentioned, mom and dad don't know what they want, or they are just not on the same page. But we're going to have to figure out how to tiptoe that, and I think that's, to a large extent, a lot of the conversations that are happening at CSAC, because we're getting pulled in two different directions as those powerful entities struggle between each other. We get collateral damage. So I'll leave it at that for now. But overall, I thought it was a great conference. If you haven't looked up a gentleman named Alex Sheen, I thought that was an amazing presentation. He was one of the keynote speakers, very inspiring. Please do so, because I know that I've watched it again since the conference, and it still impresses. Tomorrow I have APC LTA board meeting in the city of Lakeport. It's always confusing when it jumps back and forth. You really have to look to see where it is, because it's hard to remember where the last one was. Then the Lake County Children's Council in the morning, starting off with Judge's Breakfast, where my favorite human, Barbara Kreiswitz, is the host of this month's meetings. I believe tomorrow I'm just going to make it up, so I actually don't remember what tomorrow is, but I know she is bringing somebody with lived experience of being unsheltered to talk to us and let us know what the experience has been like. That's kind of be coming up. Then we are already starting on the pick count. I want to thank Vice Chair Rasmussen for jumping in with both feet again to take part in the pick count this year, but that will be coming up in fourth Thursday of January next year in 2026. And then I have some COC meetings all throughout the rest of the day. On December 12th, I still have Lake County Feeding Partners meeting. Is that happening? I'm looking at Supervisor Paiska.
I've got it too.
Okay.
I'm guessing that we are still meeting.
So that's still on there. And then I had a random coincidence of a situation. Not sure if you all received the same email or not, but the CSAC president is Susan Ellenberg from Santa Clara County, who's amazing. And she happens to be the cousin of Senator Schiff. And so I mentioned that I don't really have a relationship with our senators. I have a great relationship with our congressmen, but it's more of there's more separation between us and our senator. Got an email from Senator Schiff's office almost immediately after that, and so I'm meeting with his office on Friday, which I think any relationship is a good relationship to have, especially when it's with your representatives.
Is that Wesley?
Yes.
I think we all got it.
Yeah. So happened to be coincidental. Maybe
I
it was
think it's
because
coincidence.
maybe it was a conversation, but she was like, "Really?" So we'll see. Anyways, then I will be joining my friend Joyce on the radio later on that afternoon, and I'm just going to stop there. But it was great to be with my colleagues last week. I think it's always a good opportunity to learn.
Supervisor Owen?
Okay, I'm not going to go back 2 weeks, but last week was fun-filled and busy. I would like to say kudos to Supervisor Paiska. She is leading or chair of the agriculture, and I was able to attend one of her meetings, which to me was really important as it pertained to water. So that was a great meeting, and I'd also like to give kudos to Supervisor Sabatier as well, and he was the chair, so we, out of the 5 committees, right? We had 2 chairs up here at the dais. So that was really cool, and he was with the what was it? Which committee?
Administration of Justice.
Administration of Justice, and I didn't get to attend your meeting, so I apologize for that. He is also our rep for CSAC, so I did get to see him in action. So that was pretty impressive that we are in some leadership positions. It was a really busy week. I learned a lot. It was amazing, and I had a great time. So I want to thank you and thank everybody for going. And coming up this week, let me see. I've got the South Deal, which is our Caltrans meeting. I have Lake County Recreation, and I believe the agriculture, women's agriculture. Is that right? And I know that there's a few issues with constituents that I'm going to be dealing with as well. Some of that I'm not going to go into. So.
All right.
Tonight I travel to Sacramento for our RCRC meeting tomorrow, and then I'll be coming back. Let's see, Thursday. You both announced LCRA, right? So you don't need me. I'm an alternate, but you know, if in case you need me to step in, I'm always ready. So either way, I heard you both announce it, so I don't have to go. So I do know in the afternoon I'll have. Tentatively, right now, I have a meeting with Carter Jessup for the Superfund site discussion. We'll see how that goes. If I do get to meet with him, if not, definitely need to figure out more about that and coordinate. Friday, Chief Ciancio is retiring, so he has his retirement party at the Running Creek Casino in their conference room. So definitely going to go check in with him on that. Let's see, Monday we have of course, our CAO meeting, but also a Lake County Risk Reduction Authority, and that will be in Lakeport for sure. Either way. If not, I'll figure it out and get there. And back here Tuesday for the last meeting of the year. Anyhow, that's concludes our calendars. Let's see, what time do we have? 12 exactly. Should we do 7-2, or should we just go to lunch? All right. We will go ahead and go to lunch starting now and be back at, let's say, 1.
Do we need to be back at 1?
All right. Well, do you want to be back at like
Or 1:30.
about 1:30?
No, let's do 7-2 so we can get stuff. I don't want to be here late.
Right, yeah, so will they be here at 1 for 7-2?
Well, we can do. Let's just do them at 1, and then 1. Yeah.
Well, that we told them.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds good.
We'll do them at 1.
Mike's retirement,
Oh.
do you know?
Yeah, let me-
And Jessica, what I forgot was the geothermal. That's the one I was looking for. When is it? Friday? So both are Friday.
6.
Okay.
Oh, we are going to lunch, Sam, and if we're gonna do 7.2,
Yeah.
we'll do it at 1. Yeah.
I have 12:30 on.